Hi, I'm Elizabeth Doubleday from Insight 180, and I'm here today with Tom Grobicki, who is the CEO of Avilar. And Tom, thank you for joining us today to talk about the effectiveness of competencies with blue-collar workers. It's great to have you.
You're welcome, Elizabeth.
Good. So let's jump right in. Let's start with a question of why do so many of us associate competencies with white-collar workers?
Well, if you look on the internet, many competency libraries focus on white-collar workers and the skills that they have. It's believed that their higher salaries and individual contributions to the organizations have more of an impact. Many of these workers often already sit in front of computers and have ready access to systems, which further contributes to their use. Systems generally do not have the notion of video competencies or demonstrated competencies, and often blue-collar jobs consist of tasks that have associated certifications or schools that employers rely on to determine competencies. So they don't feel compelled to use competencies with these employees.
That makes sense, thank you. So in what ways are competencies well suited to blue-collar workers?
Well, the same benefits you enjoy with white-collar workers apply to blue-collar workers. The assessment methods might be a little bit different for collecting observational competencies that need to be evaluated by subject matter experts, but the employees will still enjoy having custom tailored training plans that relate to their particular competencies, specific to their needs. It helps the companies aggregate and understand their workforce. There's a tangible shift to higher skilled blue collar workers. So their skills are becoming more technical anyway, and therefore understanding what they need to do is very important. It's always beneficial in an organization to understand the competencies related to jobs, regardless of who performs it and how it's performed.
A really good point, thank you. That kind of ties to another perception or misperception around competencies, which I really just want to ask this way. Are competencies just text questions?
Well, many competencies look that way. They consist all of text questions. They may ask some behavioral questions, but they're most often text. But if the competency is how well do you wash your hands, you could certainly ask that question to someone who works in a hospital, but it would probably be a lot better to observe them conducting the particular competency and have the rating done by someone who is an expert and can recognize whether that competence is being performed correctly. And frequently, competencies involve a sequence of activities on a machine, for example, or they have a time and accuracy component to them that you just can't get from a text question. And so therefore, it's particularly important to collect appropriate evidence that the person can perform the particular competency correctly.
That's really great points. So what advice do you have for leaders who want to be using competencies for their blue-collar workers? What are some best practices? What are some stumbling blocks that they should be avoiding?
Sure. So in any competency system, it's important to understand what are the goals of following the process. Do you have a training focus? Are you trying to collect an inventory of skills you have in your organizations? Will you be searching for employees with specific skill combinations, looking for people to promote? So observational competencies require that you have a mechanism to collect the competency being demonstrated, which means putting eyeballs on the employee. So these can be uploaded videos, or you can have people, literally putting eyeballs on the employee to view them conducting whatever activity you want to do the assessment on. Of course, if you use a live person, you have to schedule the observation. by taking advantage of things like video competencies and collecting the evidence that way, you're allowing, there's less coordination, and you're keeping the evidence so that you can always go back and look at it again. And it's also more convenient for the subject matter expert or the assessor to both collect and view the evidence. In fact, you could have the employees collect the evidence for you.
Thank you. You just mentioned something important. You mentioned competency management system. And I'm wondering, is there a need for a competency management system to have any special features to support competency management programs for blue-collar workers?
Well, so if you accept the premise that competencies for blue-collar workers need to be observational, then the system has to have some method for collecting the evidence to associate with the competencies. So an ability to collect videos or files, to fill out checklists, those are all features. Some are unique to some systems. We also talked about the need for putting in things like the time component or accuracy of the task. So extending what you collect about the competency beyond the answer is particularly important for certain kinds of competencies. Finally, you have collected all of this evidence for a wide variety of competencies, and you have subject matter experts who have to review and do the ranking potentially of each of these. And it's not uncommon for there to be different subject matter experts. You think about OSHA safety, fire safety, working on a specific kind of machines. Those are all different, and they might have different subject matter experts who would have to do the assessments. So you definitely want to make it convenient for these people who are doing the assessments to find what assessments they have to rank and understand, what they have to complete, because potentially there'd be a large number of the employees that you have to do the ranking on, and you may have a small subset of subject matter experts or assessors doing the ranking.
Great, thank you. Okay, if you could boil it down to one thing, what one thing do you want people to remember about competencies in blue-collar workers?
Well, I believe that a competency system can be used for a broader range of workers. So the data you collect doesn't have to be a simple answer. And it could be a video, it could be other kinds of data, it could be activities. And so it's very important to think broadly and to push the competency system out onto the factory floor, out to the field where you have many blue-collar workers working for your companies, because you gain the benefits that you normally enjoy with white-collar workers with your blue-collar workers. And they, of course, then feel like they understand their jobs better and get to participate in something that would benefit them.
Thank you. That sounds great. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate your time and your perspective today.
Sure, Elizabeth. Thank you.
You bet.